Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Kechidori.
Hi guys, welcome back to another very special episode. It's Yeukai here and my good friend Kuda Biza on the show today. Well, Kuda, thank you so much for joining us here today.
It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Man, I'm so thrilled because not very often do I get my own people come on the show, talk about life, and sometimes use Shona to express themselves. So this is going to be great.
I'm excited. I can't wait to dive in.
Awesome. Now, if you are just joining us, I want to encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any information or any of our upcoming episodes, and encourage you also to spread the word because there's a lot of great guests lined up for you today. Kuda, back to you, my friend. For those who are wondering, who is Kuda Biza? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so Kuda Biza is, a Zimbabwean-born entrepreneur. I was born in Harare, and when I was young, my dream was always to come to America. And I was so fortunate enough that it happened. But in Zimbabwe is where, the seed of entrepreneurship was really sowed in me. And it just happened, by accident. One summer day, my mother said no to me when I went to ask her for ice cream money. I wanted to buy this Ninja Turtle ice cream. It was hot. And I'd been naughty that morning. And as a way to punish me, she was like, you know what, you're not getting any ice cream today. And being the only son with 4 sisters, I had been spoiled to some degree by my mom because she would always give me this preferential treatment. But that day I found myself outside of my comfort zone because she had said no. And it got me thinking because I was like, how can one person control my ice cream destiny, right? My mom just made the decision that you're not having ice cream today. And indeed, I did not have ice cream that day. So that didn't really sit well with me. So as I was thinking through, what can I do to make my ice cream dream come true? A light bulb lit up in my mind. And it was like, I have to figure out a way to make my own money. Because if I have my own money, I won't have to rely on my mom. So I quickly noticed that my neighbor's windows were looking quite dirty. So I rushed into the house, I grabbed a bucket and my mother's cleaning supplies, and I went over to my neighbor and I asked her if I could clean her windows. So I'm not sure if it was, pity or if I was a really good salesperson, but she said yes. And 3 painful hours later, I earned my first $5 in business. And the next day, when the ice cream truck came by, instead of running into the house to ask my mom for $1, I ran into the house, took my wallet, and bought that ice cream by myself. So I became a big boy that day, and that's how I really got into entrepreneurship.
Outstanding. And I love your story that you shared with me earlier on of how you went to the US with $40 and now you've transformed your life, created several businesses, and you're working with one of my mentors, Tony Robbins. Talk to us about that journey.
Yes. So the journey actually goes way, way back, right? When I was around 10. So as I was growing up in Zimbabwe, one thing I would notice when I was walking to school, because I used to walk to school with my sister every morning and would take the bus back, was that there were some kids in my neighborhood that were not going to school. So we would always wonder, are they homeschooled? What's the situation? We weren't quite sure. So one day I accidentally missed the bus because I wanted to walk back home so that I could go at that house and talk to those kids. Mm-hmm. So I went there and, as I was talking to one of the girls, her name was Sarah, I asked her a question, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And her answer to me was, Kuda, my parents are dead. I don't go to school. I'm just waiting to die. So for me, it it was kind of like shocking because I was expecting to hear something like, hey, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a pilot, whatever. But little Sarah had come to the conclusion that because she was not getting an education, she wasn't going to amount to something. But the bigger question I had was, number one, how come the government or the local community or people, within kind of like where we lived, were not helping them? And my 10-year-old self came to the conclusion that if people in Zimbabwe aren't doing anything to help people like Sarah, I need to leave, go to America, make something of myself, and then make a difference. So that was my thesis at 10. So I became obsessed with this whole thing of coming to America, and also watching things like, Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and all these other Western shows. It really drove that. So when I was in high school, and when I finished high school, when I would tell my friends, like, hey, I'm going to go to America for college, everybody would look at me like, how? Because when you looked at our reality, right, and you saw what we had, we came from a lower middle class family. My father worked for the post office. We didn't have the resources to actually fund an American education, later on just pay for an airplane ticket. So the irony now was that I got accepted into NUST, one of the top universities in Zimbabwe, to go study engineering. And I had financing to go there. So there was not going to be a financial burden on my parents. But that wasn't my dream. So when I found myself at this crossroads where everybody is thinking that I'm going to just accept this offer and I'm going to go to NUST, but I wanted to really go to America. So what I did, not having the resources, I then decided to become resourceful, because there's a difference between having the resources and being resourceful. So I went and I looked for a job at an internet cafe in the city, in Harare, and I decided to work the night shift because I needed internet to apply for my college, applications, because I needed a scholarship to come to university. So I would work from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. and then from 11 to 6 in the morning, I would sleep inside the internet cafe and spend the entire night applying for college scholarships. And when the time came when I had to make that decision if I was going to go to NUST, I declined it because I knew if I was to go to NUST, my American dream would not come true. Everybody thought I was crazy. My parents thought I was on drugs. But I had this dream that I had, and I knew that I had to sacrifice these types of opportunities that would become distractions to focus on my dream. It took me 2 years between the day I said no to NUST to when I finally got a 50% scholarship at Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. So I didn't have all the money. So when I first went to apply for the visa, because I could only show 50%, they declined my visa. And I had to recalibrate. And luckily at that time, my sister had moved to the UK. And she had watched my journey during that 2 years, how I sacrificed going to NUST, how I would work hard applying for scholarship. And she went and she took out a loan at a bank to cover for my first year 50%, and that's when I got a visa. But we didn't have anything else, in terms of money, so my parents would only exchange money for $40. And I got on a plane and I flew to Miami, and I started college. So that was the journey of how I came to America.
Wow, amazing, absolutely amazing. There's some similarities even in my own life. I remember I was at UZ at the time, and I wanted to be in England. And I remember clearly that it was during that time when there was a lot of Zimbabweans being returned home when they come to the United Kingdom. And it was sheer, I would say, providence. And of course, God had to step in, if you understand that language, for me to be approved to come to university here in the United Kingdom. And then the rest is history. And I can see there that when you have a desire and you start working towards it, the universe will pave its way for you to move towards your goals. And I can see that in what happened in your life is exactly the same thing that happened in my life. Because looking back, then even my dad, when I have a conversation with my dad to this very day, he's amazed at how all of a sudden, the events that took place leading up to my departure from Zimbabwe to United Kingdom were so miraculous. The way he raised the flight money, organized a place for me to stay. They had never done anything like that before. But because I had such a desire to be in the United Kingdom, and a desire to make something out of my own life, and I applied like you. I was at user at the time, but I kept on applying, and the opportunity came, and I ended up being here in the United Kingdom, and now doing all sorts of things. Now let's dive on, because of our time here, on the subject we really want to talk about today to help somebody who's listening, and that is, how do you balance success and fulfillment? You wrote a great book there. I'm sure we're going to reference to that. Before we talk about that, how did you come up with the idea of writing this particular book?
Yeah, so the idea to write the book really came out of my own journey. So when I graduated university, I went and I worked in a fairly large Fortune 500 company.
Right.
And while I was there, I was able to build multi-million-dollar businesses. So I was successful from a balance sheet, profit and loss perspective. But as I was doing my own, soul searching, having reflected on my background and the things that I saw, like let's say little Sarah, I wasn't fulfilled. And I really wanted to understand, how do you balance success and fulfillment? And that was really the drive that made me want to write the book. And over time, as I was studying other people, because success leaves clues, right?
Right.
I was able to come up with a framework, which I call the S.P.E.A.R method, that really outlines how you can balance success and fulfillment. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go into the first 3 steps of the S.P.E.A.R method, so that the listeners can get a taste of that S.P.E.A.R method. So the first step is, you want to seek your purpose, right? Because a lot of people, they go about life and they let life just happen to them. They haven't taken the time to really think through, like, hey, what is my why? What is my purpose? Why do I exist? The reason why you want to have clarity on your why and clarity on your purpose, because it becomes that North Star, right? That destination you want to achieve. And whenever you're moving in your purpose, whenever you're in alignment with it, that's where you get fulfillment, because you're not going and doing other things, right? So for me, for example, I'm an entrepreneur, and that's my purpose, to create businesses that make a difference. But if I was out there doing something else, I wouldn't be happy, because I'm not following my purpose. So that's the first step. In the book, I have a few tips that I share on how you can actually do an exercise on finding your purpose. So I would highly encourage people to grab it and take a look. You can get it on Kindle for like 99 cents. So you can really go through those questions and understand your purpose. Once you've done that, the second part of the S.P.E.A.R method, the P, is planning, right? We all know the old adage, failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So if you've gone through the purpose of understanding your why, but then you don't really sit down and start planning on how you're going to do it, you will just end up just doing random things throughout the day. So you really want to sit down and plan, like, hey, what do I want to achieve in the next 90 days, in the next year, in the next 3 years, 5 years? And it will ultimately, get to that purpose or that calling that you've set up. And one thing I just want to demystify is that a lot of people think that a plan is something you do once. It's an event, and it's static, and it doesn't change. No, a plan is dynamic, right? You always want to be going back and making tweaks and changing the plan as you learn, because you create a plan with information that you know today. But as you learn new things, you experience new things, and if you have mentors or other things, they will help you tweak and reframe your plan over time. So one of the businesses that I created is this is my era with a 90-day planner. And in there, we have a framework and a process to help you actually tweak things every single day. So it's similar to like, when you're flying, right? I went to aviation school when I was in college as well as business. And one of the first things you learn is every flight needs a flight plan. So it doesn't mean that things are going to go perfect, but at least when you have a plan, you can always then tweak and adjust when you hit turbulence. So that's the second piece about the S.P.E.A.R method. And then the third piece is execution. So if you've gone through all the trouble of planning and even seeking your purpose, you now have to execute, right? Taking action is what really then delivers the results. What a lot of people do is they can come up with a plan, New Year's resolution, you name it, but then when the rubber meets the road, they now actually have to take the action, they don't do it. And what's important about taking action is that you want to be taking action consistently, right? So if you think about finance, there's the whole notion of compound interest, right? Where you experience exponential growth over time. It's because, your principal and your interest are consistently growing. So it's the same thing. It's better for you to take small, consistent actions, over time that will compound and you experience tremendous growth. So you really want to make sure that you're taking action. And the way I like to describe it, because it's the S.P.E.A.R method, is that think of action as the thrust you give your spear as you throw it, right? So the more thrust you give your spear, the more velocity and force your spear has, that it will actually be able to penetrate through the barrier. But if you just give it very little force and velocity, it's not going to go anywhere. So execution is king in the S.P.E.A.R method. The other two are achieve and repeat, but I won't dive into those. But that's really the framework for success and fulfillment, where you want to make sure that once you know your why, you come up with a plan, you execute, because that will then enable you over time, and you will be fulfilled to be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve.
Excellent. These things are very simple to hear, and believe me, I've spoken to a lot of business entrepreneurs. They comment on the very same principles. However, I hear from those who are listening quite regularly that they are all right with identifying their purpose or having the clarity. Where they find difficulties is planning and executing. What are some of the frequently asked questions that you've come across in explaining this concept from the people who are listening to you?
So one of the frequently asked questions is, where do I start?
Right.
And you start where you are, right? And another question is like, how do I come up with a plan? Like, obviously I've never done this before, so how do I do it? It's actually a question that I had personally. And I was fortunate enough to meet James Jones. James Jones is a professional NBA player. He just retired. He's now the general manager for the Phoenix Suns. He played for the Miami Heat and Cleveland Cavaliers and won 3 NBA championships with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. So I asked James, like, how did you become successful? Like, how did you become a professional athlete? Because I knew his background. He grew up in a project city in Miami, the worst of the worst. It's called Carroll City. So how did you come out of Carroll City, right? So if you were in Harare, like you're in Bari, how do you come out of there and end up being an NBA player and winning with LeBron? Like, how did you figure that out? And what he told me was that he reverse engineered the process. And what he did, he looked at other professional basketball players before him. So think of Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal. And then he studied their path to success. What were they doing? How were they working out? What would they eat? And all these other different things. So if you're, if you now know your purpose and you're stuck on trying to create a plan, reverse engineer this, right? Look for a mentor who's achieved what you want to achieve. And if you can't find one who you can meet with physically, you can get mentors nowadays on social media and online. One of the most successful business people, Strive Masiwa, he has a Facebook page where, he's sharing all of his life stories and all these lessons, where if you then go, let's say your goal and your purpose is to become like him or to be a successful business person, you can then learn concepts that can help you build your plan. So that's another very common question I get whenever I explain the S.P.E.A.R method.
Indeed. Get mentors, absolutely. Without mentors, you are going through the hard school of knocks and difficulties. So you might as well cut the learning curve by finding somebody who has achieved what you want to do and just follow their steps. And it's amazing how fast you can get to your desired goal. Now, there are people who get stuck when it comes to execution. In your experience, what is the number one reason people stop to execute on their plans?
It's mindset.
Right.
It's the story you're telling yourself in your mind. Self-talk is the number one biggest conversation you have, right? You talk to yourself more than you talk to anybody, right? Because your mind is always telling yourself things. So I was telling you a story about, me coming to America. Believe it or not, I had two other friends who I went to school with who also had a dream to come to America. But the self-talk they would tell themselves, right? They would tell themselves like, this would never happen. This is not for me. So they were not empowering themselves. They were giving in self-doubt, and it paralyzed them. Because whenever they would be ready to now take action, because the tape that they were playing in their head was one that wasn't empowering, they wouldn't take action because they would just feel like, I'm wasting time. I'm never going to get the scholarship anyway. Why should I even do it? But if you really want to take action, the first thing you need to do is you need to shift your mindset. You need to starve your fear and feed your faith, right? Where you're having faith in, if I take this action, I might not see the result today, but over time, because I'm consistently taking action, things will happen. And in my case, that's what happened. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew if I consistently took action, we will get there. And it's not just with my journey of coming to America. It's with my journey with all the 7 different businesses that I've started. It's not easy starting a business and scaling it into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. You're faced with challenges. So, you might know the process, but then if you're giving yourself self-talk and it's paralyzing you, you won't be able to follow through and take the action because your mindset is not in the right place. So that would be the first thing I would say you need to really shift, is have a warrior mindset versus having a mindset that's not optimistic. So if you're a pessimist, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to take action. So being more of an optimist is the way to go. And you can actually learn how to be optimistic. There are books out there written by psychologists that talk about that. And one way you could do it is by making sure that the statements that you use are empowering. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for instance, if you were to say like, I am tired, right? You are basically telling yourself that you're tired and you won't be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. But if you change that statement into something that's more empowering, saying like, I don't have as much energy as I want, right? It's the same thing, but you've just framed it differently. It's the whole, glass is half full, half empty type of mentality. That's the way I would encourage you to go. Shift your mindset.
Absolutely. I can see this even in my own life. The biggest changes that have happened in my life to this very date have been as a direct result of learning a new concept and changing the way I view a particular subject or a particular opportunity or whatever I'm dealing with. So, if you are listening and you are looking to improve your life, and if I was to start all over again, it would be start by working on your mind. And we live in one of the best times to be alive, really. We've got access to books, access to material, access to even recordings like this. For instance, we've covered 5 aspects that you can work on, that you can apply and begin to investigate those ones. You will be amazed at what can actually happen in your life. This is one of the best times to be alive. You can change your life by changing the way you think, the way you see things. And it's as sure as the sun will rise in the morning. Do that, and your life will never be the same again. Now, as we come toward the end of our time here, Kuda, for those who wants to learn with you further, where can they find you?
Yes, so they can find me on my personal website, which is S.P.E.A.R.method.com. So that's my personal website. You'll be able to see my book, and you can go on the contact form and send me an email. But if you're more of the social media type of person, you can just go on Instagram and follow me at Kuda Biza. So Kudabiza. So those are the 2 ways you can contact me.
Outstanding. And any final words for that entrepreneur in Zimbabwe who is looking to improve their lives given the situation there? What would you say to them?
So I will say this to them in Shona.
Yes.
Usatye chero chinu chinoitika. So anything is possible. Dream big. Those would be the words I would say to them. And I know it's a very tough situation in Zimbabwe, but sometimes it is in those environments where you are actually able to thrive. So I take the analogy for diamond. Diamond is a result of a lot of pressure, right? If there's, that's the only way you can make diamond. So I actually believe that people who are able to survive and make it through in Zimbabwe and in countries that are facing, those types of scenarios, I think you actually have a competitive advantage because you're constantly having to survive outside of your comfort zone. And outside of your comfort zone, that's where success starts to happen. You won't achieve success in your comfort zone. It's outside of your comfort zone when it actually starts happening. So the advice I would give to people in Zimbabwe is dream big, go for your goals, and just apply consistent action every single day, and you will see that you achieve things that you never imagined that you'd be able to achieve.
Outstanding. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kuda Biza sharing with you some of his discoveries from even the time he moved from Zimbabwe to the United States and how he's living his life using these very simple principles: identifying your purpose, planning your life. What are you going to do to live that purpose? Executing. Make sure that you apply what you are learning in executing your plan. And also you repeat, rinse and repeat. Listen, you can do this. It doesn't matter what is going on around you, but you can be resourceful. You can reach out from within and follow your purpose. Here's my belief is whatever is in you can guide you to your way of living. You can have whatever you want to do or what you want to have. Follow your path, follow your intuition. It will guide you, it will provide for you, it will help you to be all that you want to be. And most importantly, you can reach out to me if you've got any questions, and we will be able to answer your question. I believe in the ability and the potential that people of Zimbabwe have right where you are. You don't have to be in the UK or in the US or wherever for you to live a happy, fulfilling life, a life that is that you can contribute to other people. You can do that wherever you are. And the principles we've shared with you today can help you to live exactly that. And as always, reach out to us, be it on Instagram or on LinkedIn, but most importantly, apply what you want, what you've learned here today. Again, thanks, Kuda, for being on the show with us today. And we want to wish you the very best in your next endeavor. And would love to have you back here sometime, when you've got some moment.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right. We believe in you guys. Go make it happen. Until next time, take care and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukai.businessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.